The Director of Civil Service Commission. From the Economic Development Committee, we have Michael Stevens, the Director of Department of Development. From the Environment Committee, we have Brian Clark, the Deputy Director, Sustainable Columbus, Department of Public Utilities. David Celebrezzi, Green Spot Coordinator, Department of Public Utilities. Stephen Wenzel, Assistant Director, Department of Public Service. Rosalie Hendon, the Project Manager for Urban Forestry Master Plan, Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. Every year, Columbus City Council hosts these budget hearings to hear from the departments and the public on priorities, goals, and barriers before considering passage of an operating budget in the early part of the year. The operating budget consists of annual funding to run the city salaries, program costs, etc. In contrast, the capital budget is a long-term plan that includes tangible outcomes such as roads, buildings, etc. Without further ado, I will turn the floor over to our first committee, the Administration Committee, and so Director Brannon, if you're out there, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Yes, sir, I am out here. Good afternoon to you, Chairman Remy. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2022 budget for the Department of Human Resources. The budget for the department includes funding from both the General Fund and the Employee Benefits Fund, totaling $9,049,538. The 2022 General Fund budget is $3,168,712, representing a 3% increase from the 2021 budget. This supports 14 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. The General Fund provides funding for all citywide training programs, as well as supports the Equal Employment Opportunity Office, Compensation Section, and the Employee Resources area. In addition, funding is continued for the Mount Carmel Police and Fire fitness contracts related to physical fitness and wellness testing for police officers and firefighters in the amount of $1,154,948. This includes sufficient funding for the Firefighter Cancer Screening Initiative, and all contracts are consolidated in this division to enhance service delivery and increase efficiency in contract administration. The department continues to focus on improving workplace safety with an objective to decrease workers' compensation costs. The budget provides funding for occupational safety and risk management programs and purchases of safety and protective supplies to keep our employees safe. In the 2022 Employee Benefits Fund budget, it is $5,880,826. This represents a 5% increase from the 2021 budget. This supports 32 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. The Employee Benefits Fund provides funding for all citywide benefits and wellness programs, as well as labor relations, occupational health and safety, and veterans affairs. In addition, funding is continued for several professional service consultation contracts, including employee benefits consultation, labor relations consultation, workers' compensation actuarial services, healthcare audit services, and occupational safety consultation services. The latter contract assists departments in conducting safety audits, asbestos and mold assessment and abatement, safety training, and other environmental and occupational programming aimed at reducing risk exposure and work-related injuries. Funding is added for additional software support for benefits-related programs in the amount of $70,000. This is with the Ceridian Personnel Program, or Dayforce. This is an approved expansion proposal over the 2021 budget. Included in this budget is $360,000 for the Occupational Safety and Health Clinic, which represents level funding when compared to last year. Funding is allocated for outside counsel, Baker and Hostetler, to act as the city's chief negotiator. The contract is in the amount of $200,000, which is $75,000 less than was allocated for 2021. Funding in 2022 has been reduced, and we believe that this reduction is aligned with anticipated expenditures, including potential arbitration expenses in preparation for 2023 labor negotiations. Healthcare audits continue to be a priority and are funded at a slightly lower level than in 2021 due to the timing of the audits. The 2022 contract for the healthcare auditor is $125,000 compared to $200,000 in 2021. There are no other changes to the remaining contracts supported by the Employee Benefits Fund. They all remain flat. So this basically summarizes the budget for the Department of Human Resources. And again, there were no expansion requests for the general fund and one expansion request in the amount of $70,000 in the Employee Benefits Fund for additional software in the Dayforce program to support benefits-related programming. This concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Director Brandon, and of course for your work during this pandemic era of our lives. And so kind of leads me to my first question. What impact has the pandemic had on employee benefits over the current and upcoming budget year? I know you kind of touched on that a little bit, but if you could go a little bit deeper on that.
I will try. The pandemic itself didn't have a huge impact on the employee benefits budget because many of the insurance or many of the medical that people may have needed as a result of it, the federal government covered. And so we didn't see a huge increase in our medical claims as it relates to the pandemic. One thing that is also in that budget, though, covers unemployment. And as you know, nationwide, there's been significant fraudulent unemployment claims. So we have been monitoring that because, expenses were coming in that were fraudulent. And so we were monitoring that. However, funding, again, related to COVID and assistance from the federal government also offset some of the costs that we incurred because of that. So for the most part, the cost of the vaccine, the cost for testing, the cost for various things related to the pandemic didn't hit the budget as significant as it could have because of the assistance that we were able to receive from the federal government as it relates to COVID-19.
Thank you. And can you discuss the steps the department's taken to decrease worker compensation costs and how that affects the 22 budget?
Yes, our workers' compensation costs have continuously gone down. We monitor and process numerous what's called handicap reimbursements. We take advantage of many of the rebate programs. As you'll see here, we contract with a third-party administrator, Sedgwick. They assist us in investigating claims. We also have an outside company that is used to do further investigations for cases that may be outside of Franklin County. So we do take numerous steps to monitor the claims, to take advantage of the rebates that are available to us. We have a very robust return to work program. What that means is any employee that is out on leave due to a work-related injury, our team works really hard with the department's HR offices to try to get those employees back in a light duty or transitional work environment. What we've seen is if we can get an injured worker back into the workplace, even on light duty or in some type of transitional work, there's a greater tendency that they will return to work instead of remain off and ultimately resign or leave city employment. So we take full advantage of those programs, and we have seen very lucrative returns and rebates out of that program. So the team does a really good job. And, at some opportunity, I'd love to take advantage of having them come in and share some of their successes with you.
Well, we'd love to hear them, of course. Thank you so much, Director Brandon. We certainly appreciate your presentation today and look forward to further discussions as we move towards passage. We will now move on to the Civil Service Commission. Director DeLong, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Councilmember Remy. As you know, Civil Service Commission is a part of the checks and balances of city government and is responsible for maintaining a merit system to ensure the city employment is accessible and filled with qualified, competent individuals. To that end, the Commission's budget request for 2022 is $5,016,917. This reflects a 9% increase over our final 2021 appropriation of $4,557,037. This increase is a result of administering both the police officer and the firefighter test next year, several contractually required uniform promotional exams, along with an acquisition for replacement of a large file storage system which houses all city personnel records. The expected primary expenses for 2022 are as follows. Our non-uniform testing staff and supplies is $530,949. Our uniform testing and supplies, which is encompassing of the police officer, police lieutenant, police commander, firefighter, fire battalion, and fire deputy chief being tested next year, is $1,747,791. The applicant employee services is $176,000, and the administrative and other expenses is $2,529,916, which also includes a $200,000 grant to the EDGE program. With the adoption of these requests, the civil service will have a total of 37 full-time staff and 12 part-time regular positions to carry out our classification and applicant assessment responsibilities. With that, I'd like to thank you, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you might have.
You were too quick. Hold on, I gotta find my place in my notes. Thank you, Director DeLong. The commission contracted with an industrial psychologist to perform an audit of police hiring and testing practices this year. When do you expect the results of the audit, and what, if any, resources are budgeted for implementation of those potential recommendations?
Yes. We contracted with Winfred Arthur out of Texas, a PhD who came in and did our audit. That audit we have in hand. However, we found some typos and stuff that we asked him to correct, and significant ones in the sense that they were the numbering of the recommendations got off a little bit, and which affected some of the materials throughout the document, which I thought would be confusing. We have a meeting Thursday to rectify that, and I'm hoping that on Monday, anybody who's interested in that document can have it. I'm asking him to set up an appointment with the city to actually go over that information with you, with City Hall, and also with safety, because I think it's important to hear from him those findings and not me actually reciting what's in his findings. There's 38 recommendations. The good news is the Safety Advisory Commission, who already kind of had the first look at a lot of those processes, had made some recommendations, and we had already started on some of that. As our year, in terms of we look at classifications every 5 years, and this year happened to be the year we were looking at police officer, which was a recommendation. So some of the things we're already moving ahead on. We've already made some changes based on what we saw after having conversations with him. We approved in our last commission meeting new police officer minimum qualifications, which I think will allow us an opportunity to have some individuals who were just missing our age requirement of 20 at the time of application now has to be 21 at the time of being sworn in. So it will give those individuals who may have scored a little less on the test in the 70 band more of an opportunity to hit that 21-year mark. We also removed the driver's license and the insurance until time of hire, not at the time of application. So those individuals who actually apply and test and are moving forward can, look into getting those things, because now our generations that are below us, below me, are using public transportation a lot more and don't have a need to spend the money for those kinds of things. Not that they don't have them or can't have them. It's just haven't been a priority. So hopefully this will allow us some more candidates in our pool that we're looking for, especially when we're trying to hire 170 in 2022. Did I miss something in that?
No, I think
Okay,
you hit
perfect.
everything that I was looking for, so appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director DeLong. Next, we have our Economic Development Committee with Director Stevens. Director, the floor is yours. Welcome to Chambers.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to be back in Chambers. Thank you, Chair Remy, for the opportunity to present the Department of Development's economic development portion of the 2022 operating budget. The Development Department's general fund proposal totals $25 million for all divisions. Our 2022 budget reflects a shift from a continuation budget to a strategic budget focused on the mayor's priorities of affordable housing, small business, and entrepreneurship. This amount is noticeably lower than previous years as it reflects the full year that we do not include the code enforcement budget of approximately $6 million. Our Economic Development Division will continue to work to advance economic opportunity and shared prosperity to strengthen our neighborhoods by cultivating and increasing wages. We are focusing efforts on the retention and expansion of existing Columbus businesses, attraction of new businesses, and developing an environment that encourages and supports entrepreneurship. Our economic development operating budget is approximately $4.8 million. This includes $1.7 million for personnel and $3 million for contracts and initiatives. Our economic development budget is up slightly by 8%. In planning the 2022 budget, we placed an emphasis on aligning the resources towards small business development with approximately $1 million focused on small business initiatives. The breakdown of the budget is as follows. Personnel, $1.7 million. This is up approximately 5% for across-the-board increases and anticipated filling of vacancies. Supplies is $6,300, which is down 2% due to lower projected usage of supplies. And services are a little over $3 million, up 8% additional due to the funding for the small business and a couple of studies that we're working on. This does not include payments for school district revenue sharing or performance-based job creation incentives, which are added to our budget later in the year after annual reporting is completed. Incentive payments totaled $13.5 million in 2021, and I anticipate the 2022 payment to be similar. I say anticipate as these are performance-based and we will not have a final figure until the annual reporting is received. Once we have a final figure, legislation will be prepared and the funds will be transferred to development. As I mentioned, $3 million is for contracts and initiatives. This includes $1.9 million in community agency contracts, including One Columbus at $700,000, Rev 1 Ventures at $250,000 for small business tech development. NextGen gets $500,000 for strategic site acquisition and neighborhood development. Capital Crossroads is $190,000 for downtown SID services. Sister Cities is $150,000 for international relationship development. And 7 NCR leader contracts totaling $84,000. And then $40,000 for our creative campus implementation of the action plan with Columbus State. Our small business agenda has over $500,000, including $143,000 for the Neighborhood Design Center, $41,500 for ECDI loan servicing, $15,000 for CCDC loan servicing, contract for advancing the Working Group 1 marketing efforts, a contract to accelerate Columbus for startup and launch, also a contract for Accelerate Columbus to start up and grow. Both of those are at $50,000 for a total of $100,000. A contract for our small business agenda build capacity around the ecosystem, $45,000. A contract for our small business agenda to improve services and capital at $45,000. And a contract for small business agenda, the small business awareness at $45,000. The studies I mentioned earlier, we're going to continue to work on putting together our real estate acquisition strategy and our workforce development analysis and spend $350,000 for that. The remaining approximately $200,000 we use for SID assessments, technology, contracts, advertising, training, and et cetera. Once again, I thank you for the opportunity to present the 2022 budget for the Economic Development Division.
Thank you very much, Director Stevens. Appreciate your presentation today. Did have a question with code enforcement moving to a different department. What are the plans for communication and execution between the departments? Obviously, economic development remains a large part of code enforcement, so what is in place to maintain the levels of service?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Chair Remy. We continue to partner with our colleagues at code enforcement with issues that raise both on the housing side and the economic development side. I continue to have engagement with Director Messer and building his team at Building and Zoning Services for the work they're doing to ensure that we are all advancing the city's initiatives, and code enforcement is helping with the economic development and housing side.
What do you expect to see? We did the Turk report for this year recently, and what do you expect to see in the 22 report? Do you think there'll be an uptick in projects over the next 6 to 12 months, or do we expect another down year? And if it is another down year, when do we expect that to turn positive in Columbus?
I actually think we're going to see some growth in that tax incentive review council and what's being reported to the Turk. I don't think we're going to have as many cautionary tales as we did this past year. So I'm encouraged by the level of recovery that we've seen in some of our larger businesses that have received these abatements. I would like to see more returning to their offices in downtown and help for the vibrancy of downtown. But from a reporting standard, I feel pretty confident that we're going to see probably pre-pandemic levels.
And everybody's speculating on office, at least in our space, in this economic development space, on office space in general. The national move for major companies, to buy less brick and mortar, but move to more virtual settings, and certainly how that's transforming what a typical office used to look like, especially like the offices that we have predominantly downtown. What do you see that trend? How's that relating to the city of Columbus itself, and do you think that that's going to change the look of many of our offices, that space, especially downtown?
Clearly, how individuals work in the office is of paramount concern for the city, since 80%, close to 80% of our income tax revenue, is our income tax generated from where individuals work. I'm optimistic that we're going to see more of once the pandemic gets under control, and as more people get vaccinated and slow the spread, I think we're having the opportunity. We're going to see people coming back because there's things that you can accomplish virtually, but things like culture and collaboration really are critical to be in person. We see that in our own work in the Department of Development. While we've been able to successfully transition the virtual environment, being able to come back and work together has been critical. That said, we still have a lot of vacancy in downtown, and how space is repurposed is going to be important. I think we have opportunity to encourage some mixed use in some of these towers that has not only an office component and a revenue generating component, but a housing component, which would be important, so we don't have too much space available in the market. But we continue to see investments in new office space around the downtown. Astor Park is going to be breaking ground here shortly out by the confluence, as well as Daimler continues to move forward on their project at the Sarasota Peninsula and have announced a couple tenants. So I'm encouraged that some of this new Class A office space that's under construction is going to be popular and filled pretty quickly.
I think it's also exciting to see organizations like the Edwards companies transforming typical office space into a multi-use setting, and I think that some of our older stock, we probably have to see, encourage more of that type of work. Would you agree?
I totally agree, and I think having that mixed use of office and residential makes the office that much more attractive and compelling of a product.
Well, thank you very much. Look forward to a continued discussion as we move towards passage. Appreciate your presentation this afternoon.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have the Environment Committee. We'll start with Deputy Director Brian Clark and then make our way down the list. Deputy Director Clark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Councilmember Remy. If you'll give me just a second, I'm going to get the PowerPoint up and running here. All right. Hopefully that is showing for everyone. So excited to talk today about Sustainable Columbus, and that is Mayor Ginther's program to tackle climate change, be carbon neutral by 2050, and have substantial reductions by 2030. All of our work is driven by and centers equity, anti-racism, and environmental justice. For the next fiscal year, we have a lot of different funding sources flowing into Sustainable Columbus. We have $355,000 proposed from the general fund to fund 3 new positions for Sustainable Columbus. One would be a implementation coordinator for our new climate action plan, a community organizer to assist with community engagement and equitable outreach. And then lastly, our climate advisor through the Climate Cities Challenge is funded through June of this year. It remains to be seen whether or not that grant will be extended. And out of an abundance of caution, we're proposing holding the remainder of the year's funding as a full-time employee for the City of Columbus should that grant not be extended. As you can see through this org chart, Sustainable Columbus does include a lot of other proposed changes this year. That would include the addition of an environmental justice advocate, a green jobs coordinator, and 2 Sustainable Columbus associates to serve as sort of the workhorse of the organization. Environmental justice advocate, so that's an important one that we're proposing. This would be the first time that the city would have someone focused exclusively on advocating for diversity and inclusion and community engagement and procedural and distributive justice in our sustainability space. And that person would work with a community engagement coordinator to conduct equitable outreach for the City of Columbus. We also have 3 programs that I'd like to talk about. We're currently working with finance to determine the blend of federal funding and other existing city funding resources to invest in the Clean Energy Columbus Workforce Program. This would be a $1.5 million investment for next year. It would help up to 150 Columbus residents work with our Green Jobs Coordinator to find a career in the clean energy space. We're currently in discussions with labor and the Building Futures program, as well as an existing program with Impact, where the majority of the work would be done. It's important to note that our focus here is on opportunity youth, ages 18 to 24, and we think this is an opportunity to really capitalize on our other city investments in the clean energy space. We also have energy and water efficiency opportunities in opportunity neighborhoods, and 3 key pieces of this. The first is for home weatherization. We would provide gap funding to expand that program to 250% of the federal poverty limit. The next would be looking at high energy and water use appliances, especially clothes washers, and resiliency appliances like HVAC systems, and providing ultra-high efficiency models of those appliances in our opportunity neighborhoods. And then lastly, we're exploring opportunities to support multifamily laundry unit replacement programs. Typically, these are very energy intensive and water intensive machines that are actually more costly to our residents because of that. So we're looking for opportunities to support lower cost options here. Then lastly, the mayor's announced support for the $200 million initial phase investment for a Columbus Region Green Fund. Our proposed investment would be $7 million of that initial $20 million. This would provide loan funding for solar projects in Central Ohio, focused initially on our nonprofit partners and affordable housing developments. And then lastly, I just wanted to provide a quick overview, council member, of the key national partner funding that we're receiving because of our work in sustainability. The majority of these funds are flowing to community partners that are now working with us on everything from EV readiness, mobility, and especially micro-mobility hubs for the gig economy, development of an equity index for the City of Columbus, our green workforce development, extending our benchmarking ordinance and looking at additional policies like building performance standards, expanding our residential solar adoption, and then net zero carbon design standards for city facilities. All of these are exciting opportunities to expand on what we're already doing and provide national partner funding to do it. And with that, sir, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
With the, the passage of House Bill 6, I mean, obviously the average consumer, the residents of Columbus have seen vanishing rebates and others. I mean, what type of burden does that put on the city to perform and offer these solutions for the public that used to exist but certainly don't today?
So what we're seeking to do, council member, is tie everything that we're accomplishing in sustainability with the mayor's equity agenda. So a lot of the programs that we're proposing are additive to the old rebate programs that existed for our utilities. What we're seeing now is an appetite from our partner utilities like AEP to reinstate voluntary programs like that, and we're continuing to support those efforts with the General Assembly.
Thank you very much, and appreciate your work in this regard. Might loop back to you with additional questions, but I'm gonna go ahead and move on to David Celebrezzi and let him talk about Green Spot.
Great, thank you, Chair Ramey and members of council for this opportunity to talk about the Columbus Green Spot successes in 2021 and what does 2022 hold for us. So for those of you who don't know, the program is housed at Columbus Department of Public Utilities in the Sustainable Columbus office. It's the main program the city reaches the community on actions that they can take to live more sustainably. We are membership based, but it is free to join and free to be a member. In fact, our members get really cool things like eligibility for a $50 rebate on a rain barrel, native tree, or native plant. And if that doesn't interest you, our members have taken tours of the landfill, the recycling facility, and gone on tours of high quality wetlands. They also get a welcome letter from Mayor Ginther and have an electronic dashboard in which they can track their sustainability journey. Now in 2021, the program had a non-personnel budget of about $37,393, which was down from 2020. This covered our contract with JTRAC on the My Green Spot dashboard and sign-up process. It also covered materials like water saver kits, toilet dye, pencils made from recycled newspapers, reusable water bottles, reusable straws, printed copies of our flyer, printed copies of the new homeowner green guide, our Green Spot in the Doc's kids books, our famous Green Spot decals, rebates on electric mowers, our Green Spotlight Awards, and contracts for youth outreach in underserved communities. Now, while COVID was going on and still is, we were able to move forward with Green Spot and sustainability. I'd like to share some of those successes in preview of what 2022 holds. So this year, we have 1,360 new Green Spot household members, business members, and community group members. This brings our total to 23,181 members, and the year's not done yet. The Green Spot Community Backyards program, which is one of our more popular programs, saw 1,482 people take an online quiz or attend a workshop to learn about stormwater threats and solutions. And then 694 of those folks took advantage of the rebate program. I do want to give a shout out to our partners at Franklin Solar Water Conservation District that implement this aspect of Green Spot for us. So we've given presentations and or had booths at 34 events/meetings. On the digital front, we started the Green Spot Conversation webinar series. Now, these conversations are 45 minutes long and they touch on sustainability topics that affect our community. We've held 19 this year, covering an array of topics from gardening to water saving tips at home, to recycling at work, to climate footprint and food and more. And you can view these by going to the Green Spot website, columbusgreenspot.org, and look for the Green Spot videos under the quick links box. So this was an idea of our Green Spot Advisory Board, which grew in number to 27 people representing business, government, nonprofits, academia, and residents. We've promoted Earth Day events that were outside, such as litter pickups, tree plantings, and invasive species removal. We also teamed up with Sustainable Steps, Green Columbus, Blueprint Columbus on a tree giveaway in Linden. We teamed up with Columbus Public Health on an electric mower rebate program where we got 40 old polluting gas-powered mowers off lawns. We held our Green Spotlight Awards. celebration where 3 businesses, which were DLZ, Accurate IT, and CRNet, were awarded for the sustainability successes. We teamed up with the Ohio Hispanic Coalition and Ethiopian Tewahedo Social Services for youth outreach. We coordinated several social media campaigns, updated the My Green Spot dashboard, and updated the new Homeowner Green Guide. Now, these are just some of the successes we've had in 2021. Briefly, moving forward in 2022, the Green Spot Advisory Board, we have a number of projects planned. These include supporting the Columbus Climate Action Plan by incorporating climate action programs into Green Spot, which includes empowering a community of climate leaders, also supporting our efforts on increasing the tree canopy, increasing energy and water efficiency at home and in business, and reducing recyclable waste that goes to the landfill. We will support Earth Day activities, continue our Green Spot Sustainable Business Program, add a class reunion component to that, offer incentives like tours and discounts. We'll reach out to OSU students and college students. We'll hold Green Spot conversations and make continual updates and improvements to the My Green Spot dashboard. So I encourage viewers to check out our website again, columbusgreenspot.org, to learn more about the program and learn how they can live more sustainable life without giving up comfort. And we have a specific session on the website for resident resources and another section for business resources. So all this will be done in partnership with dozens of groups and departments because we as Green Spot only succeed when we embrace collaboration. So I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and thank you, Councilmember Reamy, for always being really cool and being a champion of Green Spot.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Talk a little bit about, I know some of the work that you've done with Green Spot in our minority communities, and given the fact that many of these communities are victims of environmental injustices, just wanted to have you talk a little bit about that specifically, the type of work that you're doing to make sure that those communities aren't marginalized.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that is one of the lenses that we look at sustainability is equity. And so we've teamed up with groups like the Ohio Hispanic Coalition to reach youth on an array of environmental topics. We have our Green Spot kids books. Something else that we do is we have water saver kits that we've given out. And those water saver kits, not only is it conserving water, but it's saving money of the resident. So we see it's a win-win. Same with the Ethiopian Tewahedo Social Services. We've teamed up with them to reach out to youth, to encourage them to recycle, encourage them to conserve water. And we give them ideas of how to do that. We had posters that we had given out so they could track what they're doing. We have the new Homeowner Green Guide, which lists out a number of things that folks can do. We've tabled in a number of different areas in the opportunity neighborhoods to reach minority populations. So it's something that is not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily on our radar, it's just part of the radar, right? So it's one thing just to be on the radar, but you really do need to incorporate that into everything that we do. And so we've expanded our Green Spot Advisory Board to include members from diverse backgrounds. And I'm looking forward to 2022 and really moving on some of these initiatives.
Well, again, we certainly appreciate the hard work that you've done and want to continue to support the Green Spot program and making sure that we're expanding rapidly as we continue down this journey of, trying to reach our sustainability goals. Going to jump back to Brian for a minute. Given the fact that there is such an increase with the Department of Sustainability, I just wanted to ask what the Sustainable Columbus, what projections there may be beyond 2022, what growth are you aiming for, obviously, as this becomes more and more relevant in achieving the mission that we're set out to do in our climate action plan that will be presented here shortly.
Thanks for that question, Councilmember Reamy. We've worked very closely with the Mayor's office to identify what we believe will be both short and long-term needs for Sustainable Columbus. And I don't currently foresee any projections for additional staffing beyond this proposal. I think that we'll be able to effectively implement the climate action plan and continue to leverage support from our other partners throughout city government.
Thank you very much. And so I will now move on to public service and refuse with Steve Wenzel.
Good afternoon, Chair Remy, members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to present the highlights of the Department of Public Services proposed 2022 operating budget, specifically as it relates to Refuse Collection Division and the Environment Committee. I'm going to start out with just giving a very broad overview of the department's budget, and then I'm going to dive deeper into refuse collection and give a lot more detail as it relates to their 2022 operating budget. So just to start with this overview, the Public Service Department is comprised of the Director's Office and 5 divisions. We have the Refuse Collection Division, Parking Services, Infrastructure Management, Traffic Management, and Design and Construction. So overall in 2022, we have a proposed funding level of $164.2 million for the Department of Public Service, which represents a 19.8% increase or $27.2 million as compared to the 2021 operating budget. So most of this increase is attributed to the newly created Mobility Enterprise Fund and an increase of nearly $16 million to update and expand the refuse fleet to ensure that Columbus residents receive optimal refuse collection services. So this overall budget is going to fund 860 full and part-time personnel that provide some of the most core city services, which includes refuse collection, which contains residential, bulk, and recycling, maintaining and improving our roadways, fixing potholes, plowing snow, installation and maintenance of traffic signals, signage, pavement markings to promote the safety of our citizens, publicly managed parking for both on-street and off-street facilities, and making Columbus a safer city for pedestrians and bicyclists. So taking a deeper dive into refuse collection now, in 2022, the Division of Refuse Collection, we have a proposed funding level of $53.9 million. This represents $16.4 million or 43.6% over the 2021 operating budget, of which 95% of that increase is attributed to updating and expanding the refuse equipment fleet. So just to put that in perspective, if we take out the additional fleet numbers, the 2022 refuse collection budget represents just a 1.9% increase or $695,000 over the 2021 budget. This proposed funding level will support 226 full-time personnel that provide trash collection services to more than 344,000 households 52 weeks a year. Of that $53.9 million budget, 16.9 or 31% of the total refuse budget is related to personnel expenses. $157,400 is for materials and supplies. $21.1 million is for services. And there's 2 major components or expenditures that are associated with that $21.1 million. 10.4 is related to the recycling and yard waste contract that we have. And the another $9.5 million is for maintenance of the division's refuse fleet. $62,000 is for claims and refunds, and $15.7 million is for fleet updating and equipment. So thanks to Mayor Ginther's leadership, we will be replacing a significant portion of refuse fleet in the next year. This almost $16 million investment will fund about 47 new pieces of equipment or replacement pieces of equipment. It represents an increase of more than 30% to upgrade and expand the refuse collection fleet. And this comes at the right time as we plan to service more growth, replace aging trucks, and meet trash collection demands created by the pandemic. Included in this investment are 22 automated side loaders, roughly $8.9 million, which are the division's equipment workhorses for residential trash collection. This is a bulk of our fleet that's out there providing daily service to our residents. So we're making a significant investment to buy 22 of these automated side loaders to move that program forward. And due to COVID-19, residential trash volume averaged about 25% higher than in 2020. or in 2020 versus 2019. As many residents, families stayed home from work and school due to the pandemic. This volume has decreased slightly in 2021, but it still remains above the pre-pandemic levels. Yet our on-time residential trash pickup rate remains above the 99%. Our refuse crews are working hard to provide an optimal level of service for our residents. So of the 226 full-time personnel, this budget will continue to fund 24 staff members dedicated to support the Clean Neighborhood Initiative, Columbus Initiative, to address the persistent problem of illegal dumping in our neighborhoods, with a total budget allocation of almost $3 million. This includes advancing policies like continued replacement of 300-gallon refuse containers with 90-gallon containers, increased staffing numbers to crews dedicated to solid waste inspection and alley cleanup, continuing to utilize the installation of cameras, and working with our colleagues at the Department of Public Safety to capture and prosecute illegal dumpers, and the addition of 3 rear loader trucks that will assist the city's illegal dumping crews by targeting misuse of and trash overflows in 300-gallon residential containers in these hotspot city alleys. Where needed, rear loaders will top off the 300-gallon containers, picking up excess trash around them and debris. This will happen in between our regular collection days, and this will help keep our alleys clean. So far this year, illegal dumping initiative has been a great success. Refuse collection crews dedicated to pick up and dispose of illegally dumped materials have picked up almost 6,200 tons of debris. Included in that number is over 33 tons or over 3,100 tires that have been illegally dumped in our right-of-ways. In the past few years, the division converted a total of 10,037 households from 300-gallon collection to 90-gallon collection, and removed a total of 3,449 of those 300-gallon containers in the field during the process. This helps fight illegal dumping. Enforcement by our solid waste inspectors keeps increasing too. So far in 2021, 49 dumping criminal charges have been filed, for a total of 120 criminal charges filed since 2019. Another 69 civil violations have been issued so far this year under the Title 13 Refuse Collection Code changes that took effect September of 2020. The Division of Refuse Collection is also the home of the city's Keep Columbus Beautiful program, or what we call KCB. Every year, KCB staff work with thousands of volunteers from neighborhoods, businesses, schools, churches, and other community organizations to clean litter from Columbus streets. In 2021, the KCB team partnered with volunteer groups for 742 litter abatement and beautification cleanups. In total, 11,409 volunteers contributed over 28,000 hours to pick up over 252,000 pounds of litter from public right-of-way, and to help enhance areas with trees, flowers, removal of weeds, and brush. This kind of work with the community will continue to expand at KCB in 2022 and beyond, as cleanups, community education, and a major focus on sustainability and recycling drives engagement across the neighborhoods. And lastly, as a part of this budget proposal, we will continue the city's residential recycling program to more than 201,000 households, apartments, and multifamily complexes. This has been a successful recycling program. Since the program started in June of 2012 through October of this year, residents have recycled almost 296,000 tons of material, saving the city over $15.9 million in tipping fees at the county landfill. So far, year to date this year, through October, 25,600 tons of material have been recycled, saving over $1.3 million in tipping fees. Councilmember, that concludes my presentation of the 2022 Department of Public Service proposed operating budget. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation this evening. Last night, we approved $300,000 in rental fees for actually refuse trucks, as a matter of fact, and then also the purchaser grant for an electric refuse truck. Could you talk a little bit about what the pandemic's done? I mean, obviously, no one anticipated having to rent trucks prior to the pandemic, and we've always been really good about replacing equipment. And then subsequently, also talk a little bit about if there are any goals for electrifying the fleet in general, or is this just the first step in testing out that type of a vehicle?
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Remy. Yes, you're correct. We did have 2 ordinances on last night that actually rent some refuse trucks, as well as to purchase a electric vehicle. So just like other agencies and departments and other cities across the state, as well as across the nation, we've seen supply chain issues as it relates to some of our refuse trucks, more specifically the cost of steel, as well as if you look at the workforce issues of getting people in to build the trucks, and just the microchips or some of the computer technology that go into the trucks and acquiring that technology to build them. If you kind of look at where we are at kind of like build dates for refuse trucks that you'll see with this $16 million that we have in this budget, you're looking between 12 and 18 months to build these trucks. So that's why you're seeing the need to do a rental at this point in time. I believe that ordinance is allowing us to rent 3 at this current time, and now it's kind of help us get through this rough patch as we wait for some of the trucks that are being built. If you look at it now, what we'll be receiving early next year is actually trucks that we've ordered in years past, specifically earlier in the spring in 2021. As those are built and delivered to us early next year, you'll see some of those being replaced. Now, we are going to take another look at where we are at the first quarter and see if there's a need to maybe reach out and rent another 1 or 2 trucks just to kind of get us through at this time period that we're having these trucks built. But really, the pandemic and the delays in basically some of the supply chain issues has really caused us a slow progress in getting those trucks back in. That's why you're seeing some of that need. As far as electrifying the fleet, this is basically a pilot that we're doing for the ordinance that passed last night. I believe was a little under $600,000 for this electric vehicle. We do have a partnership that we have with the Ohio EPA running through Clean Fuels Ohio. That's going to provide $250,000 associated with the cost of that truck. And it's really the first opportunity that we're going to have to look at some sort of electrification to the fleet. Now, if you look at the overall picture of the fleet for refuse, a majority of it is fueled by compressed natural gas, which is good. We're just looking at other opportunities that we might have to move to a different fueling mechanism for our fleet. So this is a good pilot test for us to see how that vehicle performs with our routes and throughout the residential collections for the city.
Yeah, thank you very much. I know just a couple months ago, CODA brought on a couple electrified buses to test those out. Well, I'm sorry, CODA and then the airport as well. And so it's nice that we're joining suit. We have plenty of electrical vehicles in our fleet, but certainly not big equipment like our refuse trucks. So that's exciting. And then in talking with the administrator about, unfortunately, this problem with supply chain, this creates problems for our residents because we don't have enough equipment to do the routes. And so it was imperative that we rent these trucks. Unfortunately, they're expensive, but certainly we don't want people experience gaps in services, especially in areas such as the hilltop. So appreciated that opportunity to keep that moving forward, and certainly with the 16 million, 16.4 million, et cetera, that will be helpful moving forward as long as the supply chain corrects itself and we get out of this pandemic. Thanks again for your testimony this afternoon, and I'm going to move on to Rosalie Hendon in Recreation and Parks. Rosalie, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Remy, and other members of council. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Urban Forestry Master Plan it's a major endeavor within Columbus Recreation and Parks. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you, and I wanted to just highlight that since we last spoke last December, Council has approved the Urban Forestry Master Plan in its finalized stages back in April, and we are now fully into the implementation phase of this plan. So hopefully you're seeing my screen. Okay. And I just wanted to highlight some funding and then share out the progress that we've made so far in our implementation of this master plan. So within the 2021 capital budget, I wanted to highlight that we have received $1.5 million for continued implementation of the plan. We were approved for $500,000 of community development block grant funding to continue our street tree inventory project, which I'll discuss more later in this presentation. And we always, as a department, allocate $400,000 for street tree planting contracts and $450,000 for tree removal and stump grinding contracts, as well as staff, bringing us for next year a total of $2.85 million of capital funding for forestry. And I'll speak to a little bit to the operating budget as well as it relates to staff later in the presentation. I wanted to recap the goals that we have in our Urban Forestry Master Plan. This is a citywide plan and a critical part of the climate action plan that we referenced earlier. We have 3 goals. One, overall, to reach citywide tree canopy cover of 40% by 2050. That's essentially practically doubling our canopy here in Columbus. We also have goals in the shorter term to stop net canopy loss. We know we can't grow canopy if we don't stop losing a significant amount of trees in our city, and also investing in equitable canopy across all neighborhoods. And that's really looking at these neighborhoods that both have a high need and where they have lower tree canopy. So it's the confluence of those two things where trees can really be providing the most benefit to our residents. Within the Urban Forestry Master Plan, we had 4 main strategies, and so I'm just going to highlight a couple actions that we've taken within those strategies in the past year since April. So the first strategy is around community coordination and collaboration. And the very first thing that our consultants noticed about Columbus was that we did not have a citywide tree coalition. Those types of coalitions have been really instrumental in implementing these citywide forestry efforts in cities such as Cleveland, Charlotte, and Boston. So to that end, we convened our stakeholders last month in November, and this is a screenshot from that meeting. We had about 46 folks who joined us. And as a support, again, the goal is that the city would want to partner with a coalition. And we have so many amazing environmental partners out there. And really, if we could have some, ideally some sort of an umbrella format, some sort of loose coalition that brings together all of these different organizations that the city can kind of partner with around this Urban Forestry Master Plan, it's been something that's worked well in other cities. So to that effort, we understand that, a lot of work to put together something like that. So we are providing the expertise of our consultants for the first 12 months. And so that's part of the contract extension that we did. We've also been doing interdepartmental meetings between the forestry section of Recreation and Parks and with our fellow departments such as public utilities, public service, and development, and we hope to continue those meetings, again, around the implementation, citywide plan. And we intend to focus on sharing tree data across departments. Currently, we, within Recreation and Parks, track what Recreation and Parks does in terms of plantings, removals, stump grindings. Ideally, we would know what any city department does, throughout the course of the year, and we could collectively report on that to our stakeholders. So that is a goal for 2022. A strategy of best practices, here's a couple things I wanted to highlight. We want to create a socially equitable planting plan. To this point, we've done much more season by season, and so something that Forestry is really focused on is becoming more proactive, and again, using the social equity analysis that came out of the Urban Forestry Master Plan to make a longer-term plan, ideally 5 years, and really focus our city investments, again, in neighborhoods where trees can be providing the most benefits. We plan to fill some key forestry vacancies, including our city forester, and we also want to work on an urban forestry best practices manual with our stakeholders, including other key city departments that are, again, working on trees in the right-of-way. With dedicated resources for this plan, so there's some really key pieces of urban forestry data that we needed to update. And I'll share a little more detail, but right now we've done 7 neighborhoods so far of our citywide street tree inventory update. The last time that we did a citywide street tree inventory was in 1998, so it was sorely needed. And this information is really critical for forestry to be able to respond to hazardous trees and to be also collecting planting spaces and be able to respond to situations on the ground. We're also doing an urban tree canopy assessment in the coming year. I mentioned our canopy percentage goals. Those are all built off of the last time that we did an urban tree canopy assessment, which was based on 2013 data. So a lot of our stakeholders expressed concern about the age of that data, and it is ideal for a city to update their urban tree canopy assessment every 5 to 10 years. So we are in that window, and we will be using likely 2021 imagery in the early part of 2022. So the request for proposal is out for that currently. We have also been able to leverage grant funding and continue to use that for our inventory work. We've created a tree fund at our foundation in order to help accept donations for the implementation of this plan. And I mentioned additional forestry staff, equipment, and contracts. We'll go into more detail here in a moment. And then finally, the last set of strategies within the Urban Forestry Master Plan is around policies. And this chart you've probably seen, you may have seen before, but it compares Columbus to 2 of our neighboring municipalities, Gahanna and Dublin, as well as our peer city of Charlotte, North Carolina. And you can see that kind of no matter which way you slice it, Columbus lacks a lot of tree protection that these other cities have. Really what we have that is the strongest within our existing city code is public tree protection. But when it comes to private property, we don't have anything citywide that protects trees on private property. So in the first part of 2022, we will be working on updating our public tree code. It is existing, Chapter 912, but we want to modernize it. I think the last time we touched it was in the 90s. And we also want to look at the mayor's executive order from 2015 and look at, take a hard look at it and then get it into city code at the same time we're doing public tree code updates. And then we will also be starting to tackle the private side. That'll be a longer process, and we'll engage a lot of stakeholders as we come up to that. Okay, and then I just wanted to share a couple of our goals in progress. I touched on them briefly, but going back to the street tree inventories, I mentioned those 7 communities. We started in 2020 with South Linden, and then we've moved on to the South Side, Southwest, Milo Grogan, North Central, Far South, and Franklin-Tim. We chose these communities both on community development block grant funding availability and also our equity analysis. So far, we have captured information on over 15,000 existing street trees and over 19,000 planting spaces. So far, we've leveraged $250,000 of the community development block grant funding in 2021, and we have been approved, as I mentioned, for another $500,000 in the next year to continue this work. We have $300,000 of our 2020 capital budget set aside for inventories that will start off in January. And our goal is to complete the entire city by the end of next year. Forestry has created a 5-year proposed budget expansion. One of the major findings of the Urban Forestry Master Plan was that city forestry was under-resourced. We were spending less per street tree compared to other, nationally compared to other cities, as well as our staff were responsible for managing more street trees than the average. So to that end, Forestry was able to hire a plan reviewer, and we've also hired a 4th regional arborist. The arborists direct the tree crews, and so the idea was to be able to split the city into quadrants. So those are 2 new positions for forestry that we find it very exciting. We've revised the city forester job description to incorporate really high-level planning and coordination, including implementation of the Urban Forestry Master Plan. These are job functions that did not exist previously within that position. And we may extend, but as of now, the position closed as of yesterday. We were awarded out of the 2020 capital budget, $1.5 million, and I mentioned that that's going to staff the street tree inventory, contracts, and equipment. And we also, in 2021, have been able to leverage a little over $1 million for contract tree planting, both capital and grant funding. So going back to digging in a little bit to the staff, so forestry in this year has had 35 positions, 27 full-time and 8 part-time. Forestry, trees and tree planting, they're assets, right? They're long-lived infrastructure, right? Then they would be eligible for capital because it's more than 5 years that they live. They have a service life. And so forestry, to this point, had been heavily paid out of operating, even though there were positions within forestry that were actually capital eligible because they were working on growing trees, planting trees, removing trees, and preparing planting sites. So in 2022, through our work with the auditor and with the finance department, we have authorization to transfer 10 existing full-time positions to the capital budget, which will help open up the operating budget. And that will pave the way for, starting in 2023, adding additional pruning crews so we can have some preventive maintenance for our street trees, which we have not had consistently citywide. We're planning to hire 8 full-time positions, both expansions and vacancies, 2 part-time positions in 2022. And I mentioned the new hires 2023 through 2025. That's an additional crew each year with 4 full-time staff, a supervisor, and 3 tree trimmers. 2 will focus on prunings and 1 will focus on removal. And the last thing I'll share this afternoon is a project related to the Urban Forestry Master Plan. This is Stockbridge Park in the far south community. There was an existing park on the east side here in the image. And what we were able to do as a department was acquire the 11 acres that was an old school site. There was a vacant school building here that had sat vacant, I think, since 2008. And the plan here, we've already demolished the building, but we were able to acquire the property and demolish and plant trees with Clean Ohio state grant funding. We're planning, this is a draft design for the park, but we're planning on installing about 2,400 trees, completing the walking loop, adding interpretive signage, and just generally, this is a very exciting project for our department because it's right now basically a field with a few mature trees on the edge, and we're looking to substantially increase the canopy in this part of Columbus, which is lower than average and just low in general. So this is an exciting reforestation project combined with, park revitalization. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Rosalie. You were very thorough. You certainly took away my questions about Stockbridge, especially what that meant to the far south. And, we're obviously very tuned in to making sure that we're increasing our tree canopy. It's been stagnant. And so it's good to see the staffing, the use of CDBG dollars to help with that. Are there other plans to significantly, the CDBG dollars is a good step in the right direction. Do you anticipate requiring additional funding so that we can really ramp up our tree canopy program our urban forestry master plan, but then with the ultimate goal of increasing our tree canopy?
Thanks for the question, Chair Remy. I think that the component of the plan, which one could argue is one of the most important parts of the plan, is really focused on private property plantings, and that's something that as a city we haven't done before, outside of partnering on maybe a tree giveaway, but we haven't really moved into that space. So I see that as we start to learn from our partners and try to collaborate around private tree plantings, private property, I think that is where we could really focus some investment. In general as well, I would say, we run into the same issues that public service was just detailing, our assistant director there. We're running into the same equipment shortages. Forestry equipment is extremely expensive. A lot of our equipment is really aging out. And so, just as much as it's important to plant trees, what I've learned through this project is it's equally important to preserve and maintain existing trees. So we're trying to balance both of those things as a department and as a city. So yes, I think that while we've really tried to think about on the city side and anticipate our costs, both in these data upgrades, equipment, staff, et cetera, I think that we will need more to ramp up our planting program, both on public property, but I think the private side is a little bit more to be determined. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation this evening. We do have one speaker I'd like to call on this evening. Roxy Frazier, please state your name, your address, and any organization you may represent. You have 3 minutes to speak. Roxy, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Councilmember Remy, for allowing me to be able to come out and speak today. Thank you for chair members for coming out to listen. My name is Roxana Frazier. I'm with an organization called Help for Homelessness and Beyond. We are an organization that's dedicated to creating sustainability in the community that we serve by providing housing, training, and support services to help people to get back on track with their lives. Our organization we have created a community safety committee so that we can partner with the community in order to be able to create sustainability all over the city. Right now, we have a small housing site. We're located over at 2676 Purdue Avenue, where we have a small housing site that allows us to be able to house 2 families at a time or no more than 7 individuals. We are making a request right now to the city. Our original request was for a little over $3 million so that we can bring all of our programs and services up under one roof. But we have been pledged, since we made the request, we've been pledged $400,000. So we're reducing our request to ask the city for $2.75 million so that we can bring our programs up under the same roof. It is a 5-year sustainability plan. Our proposal is designed to help to be able to reduce crime and violence and homelessness and death in the community caused by people who are homeless and don't have anywhere to go. So we know that homelessness is a community crisis. It's something that we all have to deal with. There are hundreds of homeless children that are sleeping in their cars with their children all over the city of Columbus right now. The shelters are overflowing, and there's nowhere for these people to go. Even if you provide them with somewhere safe to stay for that night or for a week, if you don't create them a plan that helps them to be able to get back on track, then you tend to see these people over and over again. So our goal is to create this 5-year sustainability plan where us and our partner organizations walk people through the program and help them to be able to get back on track. We have a partnership with a lot of different agencies around the city that enables us to be able to do so. And we're creating many, many partnerships every day that will allow us to be able to continue our program. So far, we've helped a little bit over 200 people since we got started. Of those 200 people, a little over 90% of the people that we've helped have been able to sustain themselves, and they also have the opportunity to be able to reach out and help other people now. So it's really, really important to reach out and get the children while they're young, help them to be able to get back on track, the families that are out there in the community that are homeless, to help them to be able to get back on their feet. We have the moratorium that's getting ready to end soon. Homelessness is increasing. A lot of people are going to lose their homes, whether it's foreclosure or just not having the funding to be able to sustain themselves. So we want to be able to put these people back in a position to be able to get back on track. We have a lot of organizations such as Celebrate One. We're trying to partner with the land bank so that we can provide some housing. We partner with the Star House, the Shelter Board, Southeast Urban League, Lutheran Social Services, and Department of Job and Family Services, Primary One Health. There's many different organizations out there now, but the reason our plan is different from other people's plans is because we don't just send the people over to organizations. We actually help them, walk them hand in hand, and help them to be able to sustain themselves one program at a time.
Thank you so much, Ms. Frazier. We appreciate your testimony this evening and the work that you do within the community. I will have my staff follow up with you, but appreciate you reaching out this evening and testifying. I'd like to end this hearing by thanking our committee partners here tonight for joining and presenting. I look forward to 2022, the exciting plans that each of these committees have in store for our community. Thank you to my team, Lucy Frank, Jeffrey Carter, our Legislative Research Office Committee staffers, Andrew Dyer, John Oswalt, and Ira Walters, and James Lewis, Mark Carter, and the entire CTV team for their assistance in making sure this committee hearing took place today. I want to wish everyone a very happy holiday season and have a great evening, everyone. This concludes this hearing.